Welcome back to the Ohio MMA podcast. I'm your host, David McKinney, and today we're not going to talk MMA. We're actually going to talk something a little bit different. We have Muay Thai fighter Luke Albu joining me today. And first off, Luke, thanks for joining me. How you doing?
Good. Thank you, David. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Luke. So I know I actually called your amateur MMA
You,
debut
you did, yeah.
about a year and a half ago for Ohio Combat League, and then you actually told me before you were fighting that, hey, I'm taking this fight, but before I go to train and live in Thailand for a year.
Yep.
So you did that. You came back, and now you're making your pro Muay Thai debut
Yeah.
next month, October, in New York. And yeah, so what? Just take me first. Let's talk about the MMA fight, because that's what a lot of
Sure.
people
Yep.
know this for. Unfortunately came up short in that fight, but tell me about the experience. You fought on a pretty big card, OCL 19. You lost to Denzel Wallace, who
Yeah.
that's a tough first fight. I mean, he's he's been doing pretty well in the Ohio MMA scene, but
Mm-hmm.
you fought on an all amateur card in at Kemba Live and made your MMA debut. So talk about like that experience and what that was like, before you headed over to Thailand.
Sure. So I wanted to take that fight. I'd never fought in Columbus before. I've been doing Thai at that point for like 2.5 years. But yeah, in Chicago and Iowa, but never in Columbus. So I did want to fight in Columbus before going to Thailand. I also wanted to have a fight in a 4 ounce glove. Um, just to see what that was like, and obviously the popularity of promotions like One Championship. They have Thai that's in just those 4 ounce gloves, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted that experience, as well as I train with a lot of talented grapplers, and so just trying to slowly kind of piece that part of the game and learn more about that, where obviously I'm most comfortable on my feet. So yeah, those are sort of all the reasons of taking and going into that MMA fight.
So how do you feel? And we'll talk about you trained in Thailand and you're fighting in New York. But how do you feel about Muay Thai and the growth of Muay Thai in the U.S.? I feel like in Ohio specifically, it's pretty slow going. I know we have now one kickboxing promotion with Ryan Madigan putting on some shows up in like the Canton area, but MMA has been the huge thing in Ohio now for a decade plus. But I've seen the growth of Muay Thai, like in especially Chicago area. You mentioned you fought in Chicago a couple
100%.
times,
Yeah.
Iowa. I see it on different actually MMA and Muay Thai cards combined. But how do you feel about the growth of Muay Thai and I guess to a lesser extent kickboxing in the U.S.?
Sure. I think it is continuing to grow, especially in Ohio and the Midwest. What's really great, actually, so TBA, which is the Thai Boxing Association, they put on two national tournaments every year out of Des Moines, Iowa, normally. This year, the second of their big tournaments, it's called the TOC, the Tournament of Champions. Their 2024 is going to be in conjunction with the Arnold. So it'll be local here in Columbus, which is really great. There will be a lot of, not just athletes from the Midwest, but those will see competitors come down from Canada, from the West Coast, and all over. So of course the Arnold has always been held in Columbus, but now to have that tournament kind of attached to that, I think will only continue to propel the growth forward.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mention the Arnold. I've seen some Muay Thai and kickboxing and amateur boxing at the Arnold in the past, and
Yeah.
I know that there's a rumor that one championship is actually looking at doing an event in conjunction with the Arnold. Have you heard that? And what are your thoughts on that? And seeing a huge, massive, like worldwide type of event being
I
in Columbus.
I haven't heard that. That's pretty cool though. That would be really neat. I know they have obviously one is super cool, right? Because on one card you can have a Muay Thai fight, a grappling match, a kickboxing match, and an MMA match, and they're all just going to take place in this cage,
Yeah.
all on one night. I think it's super cool and super exciting for um, for all the athletes, the ones that compete in mixed martial arts and the ones that have chosen to specialize really in one discipline or another. Um, and I know one is starting to expand into like the US market. Um,
Yeah.
it's exciting. I know I'm fighting at the end of October. The September card for the promotion Warriors Cup that I'm on, um, the main event of their September card was the finale of their 135-pound tournament, and the winner received a one contract, a multi-fight one contract, which is super cool. So I think one is starting to see a lot of value in the U.S. and the high level athletes that are here, and so if they could, also hop on and get connected with Arnold,
Yeah.
obviously his name alone carries such cachet. That would be super cool.
Yeah, I guess it's I guess semi-public. Rich Franklin, who is part of the Cincinnati native and part of
Yep.
the leadership of One, actually went in front of the Ohio Commission a couple of months ago and kind of did some demonstration of the specifically the MMA rule set differences in One.
Okay.
But I know that he'd mentioned that they were looking at potentially holding an event in Columbus during the Arnold, maybe next year, maybe even I don't know about the year after, but that would be really cool, and that's always such a great just sports weekend in general, and of course, combat sports
Sure.
has been a huge part of it for the past, however long that it's been there since UFC events, and even before UFC, there were like Gracie Fighting Challenge events there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so talk about going and then making the decision to go live and train in Thailand for a year, because I know that you went with your fiance, and just what was the like how did you make that happen? What did you do like for work? How did you make that happen, being able to live in Thailand for a year and train?
So I did a decent amount of research beforehand and actually had a pretty good contact, Jaleel Barnes, who still lives in Phuket, in Thailand. He is from Columbus. He trained at Ronin. And so he's going on maybe his fourth year in Thailand now. And so there was someone who'd sort of not necessarily paved the way, but there it was a good contact to sort of ask questions to, how expensive is it? What do you need money wise? What's the living situation like? The training, all those things. So it was great to really bounce ideas and questions off of him. Um, but I didn't work very much while I was over there. I mostly trained. I did teach English online a couple nights a week for no more than like 2 hours.
Okay.
And that supplemented my living there a little bit. But one of the benefits of Thailand is the US dollar is very, very strong there. So it is cheaper to live there when it comes down to just the cost of living, rent, food, transportation, things like that.
Yeah, and I know that you trained. I think you had a couple fights too, right?
I
And
did. I had three.
yeah. Okay.
Yep.
How'd those go, and what was the experience like fighting over there?
It was the experience was awesome. They're so passionate. I mean, they're passionate from not just like the fans who are sitting there at the events and at the fights and things, but part of the training is we'll go running, and people on their motorbikes or in their cars, they will slow down and high five you and honk their horns and give you the thumbs up. They know what you're doing and training for, and so it's supportive on those long hot runs.
Yeah.
The fights themselves went well. I was 1-2. I fought all foreigners, so no one else from the U.S. I fought two Thais and one European, I believe, from Sweden. Um, and they were all really, I mean, all very talented fighters. One of the Thais about kicked my leg off almost. But yeah, it was great, real great.
Yeah. So, have you kind of reached out to even before or after some of the I guess name you mentioned some fighters that had been at Ronin. Have you reached out to guys like Cody Stevens who trained over there in Thailand? Or I know the biggest name probably in Ohio is Dorian Price, who lived in Thailand for a long time, and I think he was actually the first American to fight on the king's birthday in Thailand, if I remember
I think
correctly.
so. I think that's
And
right.
have you reached out to anybody like that and kind of like, but just compared your experiences, or what's I guess like the community of people who've trained in Thailand and Ohio like?
Um, it's really supportive. I haven't. I don't have contact with either one of those guys that you mentioned, although I know of both of them. I do some training now at Immortal, so I know Dorian. He kind of bounces. He'll come back to Immortal every so often to work with Matt, but he's been in Nashville and maybe in Maryland now too. So I would love to cross paths with him. I've heard really great things about him, um, but there's a lot of I found coming back that like a lot of people had questions. Maybe not to go for the length of time that I went, but people that would love to go for a month or a couple weeks, or something on either side of those, little shorter, little longer type of thing. Actually, in April of 24, I'm going with a group from Endeavor in Hilliard for 10 days. We're going to go. So yeah, people have been interested and kind of wanted to not exactly replicate or copy the experience, but mold it to what would fit them. Just because I think they've seen the benefits, and obviously I had a really positive experience there. So
Yeah. So I know you mentioned coming back to the U.S. and training, and you're actually training with probably some of the best fighters in Columbus right now. And
some of
are
the best, yeah.
you cross training? I know you were at Grove City BJJ before, and training with, of course, Josiah Harrow and Jaden Maddox. But you also mentioned training with Asher Frederick, who I know is at Ronin, and
Yep.
Josh Pereira, who's mostly at Immortal. Are you going to different gyms around Columbus? I feel like right now Columbus is just such a hotbed of so much young talent and like guys that I think are really going to be impressive on the next level. So are you taking advantage of that, or are you just sticking at one gym, or what's the training like now?
No, so I'm really between three. I'm between that Endeavor Defensive Fitness there in Hilliard, Immortal, and then Grove City. And then I do know some guys at Ronin too. But you're right, and that's definitely something I noticed coming back is just obviously living in Columbus. That's kind of all I can relate to. But there's this like rising tide lifts all ships type of thing happening where these high level guys are all, well, why don't you come my gym on Mondays and Wednesdays, and I'll meet you at your place Tuesday, Thursdays. And there's this group of people who are all trying to um, pave their own path and kind of help make each other better.
Yeah, and I kind of noticed it in Pittsburgh, like 5 6 years ago, where so many of the fighters just eventually said like, "Hey, why do we need four? We have four gyms that are great gyms, but let's all like, kind of exactly like you said, make everyone better, and then fight all the guys from everywhere else, and make
Exactly,
them come
yeah.
here and fight us versus trying to have the gym battles and warring back and forth and all that fun stuff." But
Right.
so let's talk about your fight. I know you're fighting for a Warriors Cup,
Hmm.
which is actually their 56th event. I have seen Warriors Cup before. I didn't realize they had that many events, but they're in New York. And as you mentioned, they have the partnership with One. And you're making your pro debut. Do you know who you're fighting? I couldn't find who you're fighting. I know Muay Thai
I
sometimes is a little
no,
tough to
no, totally.
find.
I do know who I'm fighting. His name is Kamar Lindsay. He is from New York. I'm not sure what part. Um, and he's fought on the promotion before.
Okay.
As far as footage and things of him, I haven't found too much. A couple small clips, but nothing. I don't even think I've been able to find a full fight at least yet, and I haven't. I haven't looked super hard yet, but yeah, I do know his name, and he's a southpaw, and he's taller, and so yeah, I know the bare bones.
How do you feel about the promotion? I know, again, there's not a ton of Muay Thai promotions in the U.S., but I know that Warriors Cup is definitely one of the most respected. Does it seem pretty cool to fight on your pro debut for Warriors Cup?
It's been, yeah, the working with them thus far, leading up to the event has been awesome. Super organized. The guy in charge, his name is James. He's super responsive to text messages, questions, helping set up travel and where you're staying and sort of those things that they're kind of like nuisances when you're preparing for a fight, right? You want to really worry about making weight in the actual competition as much as possible, and then when you do travel, some of those other things um, they don't get in the way, but they kind of weigh on you to organize all that on your own before
Yeah,
actually being able to step inside the ring or the cage and try and do what you like to do. And they've just been extremely professional and friendly too. In terms of getting the right paper for blood work and physicals and all that. Super organized. And I did watch their September card. It also seems like a super cool venue, but yeah, really professional, really helpful.
Yeah, that it seems like it's pretty cool. I'm hoping. I don't know if I'm assuming. I feel like pretty much everybody streams now, so hopefully it'll be available. Do you know anything about that?
It it is. It's on boxing TV, so bxngtv.com. Boxingtv.com. I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it, but they use kind of that little acronym.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah. So, one other thing I wanted to ask you. So I know before your amateur fight, when I always send out some stuff to
Yeah.
fighters, and you mentioned that you were a big reader. What's you got any good book recommendations of anything you've been reading recently, or?
Yes, I do. The Creative Act by Rick Rubin is really good.
Okay.
I actually finished that. That was the first book I read when I got back. And
I love Rick
let's
Rubin. He's like
yeah,
such an interesting dude.
exactly. And he's kind of he kind of made the podcast rounds. He went on a couple big name podcasts, Rogan being one. I don't know if it was just to promote the book or kind of went in conjunction with that, but yeah, that was a great book. And then I also read, actually, it's right here, I think. Yeah, it is it. The Four Agreements, which is super popular. I read that, and then in July I ran an ultra marathon, and so I actually just read. I read a book about like trail running. So
Okay.
those are kind of the three books that I've read recently.
Yeah. Yeah. I just finished my second triathlon. I'm always reading like
Nice.
about running, and I
I would
haven't
love to
done
do a
any
triathlon.
ultra marathon. I've done 2 marathons, but not any ultras yet. So I stopped
Nice.
exactly at a marathon. I'm like, that's the maximum I can do.
26.2 done.
Yeah, but no, that's awesome. Yeah, I always like to. I feel like that's the best way that I get recommendations, and I honestly didn't even know that Rick Rubin had a book out. So I'm
It's really
yeah,
it's really good. And
yeah.
it's a quick read too.
Nice. I'll have to put that on my list. I'm always like backed up. Like I feel like years until I get the books, but
I know.
yeah, and I try to like get as many as I can in a year. But yeah, man, thank you so much for joining me. Anything else you want to mention? Any shout outs and all that fun stuff?
Um, no, super excited. I'm really appreciative to Warriors Cup for putting on the event and the promotion. And yeah, I'm excited for October. Thank
Awesome.
you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. October 20th is the date. Warriors Cup 56. Luke Albu making his pro Muay Thai debut, and we will be, of course, following you. And thank you so much for joining me, man.
Awesome. Thanks, David.
Cool.